Hey guys, Necroxis here, and I wanted to let you know that there is a really cool new short story that was just released on the official forums. It's called Code of Rule, and it is basically about Emperator Margo, who is the leader of the Gul'dan Empire, the king of the ogres, basically, and their dealings with the Iron Horde, and basically you see the moment that the Iron Horde and the Gul'dan Empire become allies. And it's really, really well done, and I think you guys should go and read it, and I will always advocate, no matter how much I don't like a lot of the story of Warlords of Draenor, but when good short stories come out, I have to advocate for them, and this is a really, really good one. But it does raise a few questions that I have, and I'd like to speak about it a little bit, so I'm going to take like a quick 2-second break real quick here to let you go read it. I have the link to the story in the comments below. Read it, and then come back, and then we can discuss it for a little while, and I can get you guys' thoughts on everything. So, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Spoilers. So, how'd you guys like it? I thought it was really, really well done. It gives me such a better appreciation of Emperator Margo as a character, as a villain, as a leader. It was really interesting to see from his perspective how he views the Gul'dan Empire, how he views orcs in general, how he views Grommash, how he views learning new magics. You can see why he was king. And there are certain times in the short story where there's a sentence like, blah, 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 and that's why Margo is king. And I was like, I believe it. Like, for example, at the very end when Grommash, and this was really smart on his part, I liked this part of the story too, when Grommash is going to force a challenge to Margo to show his worth and what he could bring to the Iron Horde, he sends warlocks that he has captured against Margo. And the whole deal is, if you somehow missed it when you read it, is that Margo and the Gul'dan Empire, their big thing is they have not spellbreakers, magic breakers. Spellbreakers are a real thing, but that's a blood elf thing. They have magic breakers, people who are completely immune to a single school of magic. And Grommash wants this, and we later on find out he wants it to guard himself from warlocks, which raises a whole nother question that I'll get to at the end. But I really like how Margo sees the warlocks do their magic one time, and he quickly going through his head, he's trying to think how he's going to figure out. He at first seems like he's going to lose, and all his people are just going to be slaughtered, because at this time, the Iron Horde has already pretty much conquered all of Heimal. But on the fly, basically, he crafts, I don't even know how to describe it. He, like, enchants fel magic immunity onto Korag, who is the second-to-last boss in Heimal, if you guys have done the instance. The second-to-last boss is Korag. He's the guy who becomes immune to all forms of magic. And that's, like, a big mechanic of his fight. And before Korag, and we see this in the story, only one school of magic could be made someone immune to at once. But Korag was already immune to something else. I don't believe the short story tells what school he's immune to, but Emperator Margo gives him the ability to also become immune to fel magic. I thought that was really cool. I love learning about the origin of Korag, because at the end he says, Emperator, I think I could, be immune to more schools of magic. That was a good scene. I like how Margo just basically, backhands him across the face because Korag didn't tell him about this ahead of time. I like how Emperator Margo thought on the fly and was able to successfully make him immune to fel magic, despite the fact that he very obviously, the short story flat out states this, he has never experienced that kind of magic before. Oh no, it gives a really good, in-depth look at a villain who, honestly, Warcraft doesn't do it that much. You can think about, I would say Mists of Pandaria does it somewhat too, but ever since Mists of Pandaria, I think the storytelling, not if the story is good or bad, but just the storytelling itself has been much better presented in the game, and it's just really cool to see them flesh out kind of the intro villains, if that makes sense. Like in Mists of Pandaria, it was, the Shah of Fear, and instead of just being like this hulking Shah of Fear who was in the final raid of the first tier of Mists, we had this whole story. We knew how he, came into being. It's because the Alliance Horde landed there. We know what he did. He went and took control of the Mantid Queen. We know what he was doing. He was at the Terrace of Endless Spring, corrupting all the shit. And just like here with Emperator Margo, Now, I wish a lot of this would have been in the game, but, you know, it's still cool that we get an in-depth look into his character. We learn why he thinks the way he thinks, what he thinks the way he thinks, how it's like to have two heads as an ogre. I don't think we've ever... we've known kind of how they work, like somewhat, a very little amount, but in this case, it was really interesting to see the parentheses in all of the basically the entire story, and I'm assuming that was the other head talking to itself, because the story presents it as, even though there's two heads, they both think as one. And it was interesting seeing the dynamic between the two heads of Margo. And I don't know if this is lore still anymore, but previous lore used to be, if you were a two-headed ogre and you had an apostrophe in your name, the apostrophe represented the split between the two names of the two heads. So, for example, once again, I don't know if this is still lore, but if we had Emperator Margo and the old lore, one head would be named Mar and the other head would be named Gok. And it's very interesting to see how there's even a moment where Margok's two brains are kind of like not synced at one point because they're both thinking of stuff so quickly at the same time. Just a lot of things happened in this short 5-page story, and I really, really liked it. It was cool to see, you know, I actually don't know when, now that I'm thinking about it, when this story takes place in the timeline. It's very clearly before Warlords of Draenor happens, like the game. But it's after the Iron Horde's already formed, so it's at some point between the 2 years between Grommash or Garrosh arriving and stopping the blood drinking and the dark portal being connected to ours and them invading. I don't know when, but it's, you know, it's cool. So yeah, it's really interesting. I can't think of any orcs that we've fought yet that have this kind of magic immunity thing going on. Maybe there will be some, you know, in the next raid, but I wish they made it a big point. Like, the majority of the story is about Grom trying to get people immune to foul magic, and you know, once again, I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen the new 6.1 cinematic, but I don't know how helpful that's going to be anymore. Like, I wish we would have saw some, you know, some kind of orcs that did stuff like that, who are immune to foul magic, who are fighting a legion. And then that brings me into one of my final points, which is Grom's doing all of this because he wants his orcs to be immune to foul magic, and I understand why. Like, I get it. You know, it's because he saw the future, he saw the Burning Legion. You know, Garrosh is telling him stuff, and Garrosh is in the short story for a second too, by the way. He's not named Garrosh, but he's the hooded figure, which whispers something to Grommash in, like, the middle of it, kind of. That's Garrosh, if you didn't catch that. But I get why he wants to. You know, like, Garrosh told him all this stuff, he saw the future. Gul'dan is around. Gul'dan is a thing. At this point in the story, I think Gul'dan's still captured. He's either captured right now and is about to be used to power the portal, or he was never captured. It's kind of not clear if at the end of the cinematic for Warlords of Draenor, where Manaroth dies, it's not clear if these orc names, guys, I brought this up a long time ago, but these orc names with all the G's, they always get me confused. It's not clear if at the end of the Warlords of Draenor cinematic, if Gul'dan was captured the entire time until we get to Warlords and free him. That was my only point. So, you know, I think it's really interesting that Grom was trying to do that, but then he is willing to go to war with Azeroth, when whose you know, occupants, the Horde and the Alliance and the whole planet, are one of, if not the biggest opponents of the Burning Legion. Granted, it's a different universe, I understand, but Grom isn't dumb. Like, one thing Warlords has done in all of the short stories and all of the companion lore is show that while Grom is very muscular and he's very physically capable and he can stand his own in any fight, he's not stupid. Like, he's not a stupid leader. You know, we see it again in the 6.1 cinematic. Even when, spoilers, Gul'dan's like, look, your shit's getting wrecked, come join me. Even then, he's like, no, I'm not going to. So, it's not even a criticism of the short story, it's a criticism of the story as a whole, which, I don't need this also to add to why I don't like it, but I'll just say it's a criticism. My criticism is, why would he still be on board with wanting to kill the Alliance and the Horde, and the Draenei and the Frostwolves, when after Warlords begins, there's very clearly a bunch of moments where the Alliance and Horde are fighting against Gul'dan's forces. You know, they're fighting against the Sargerai. They're fighting against the Shadow Council. They're fighting against the Burning Legion. You would think Grom would get messages about this because, once again, in the game, we do have confirmation that Grom is getting all of, like, these missives from the different... Like, he's keeping tabs on what's going on. So, it's not like he's ignorant to it. You know, it's very clearly... when something like Auchindoun, you know, the Draenei holy crypt, basically, gets taken over by the Burning Legion, that's not something people just don't realize. And then when it gets cleansed by the Horde and the Alliance... Also something you just don't realize. Like, you know that would happen. So I just kind of find it funny that I wish, maybe there still is, but I wish there was, like, some kind of moment, like, in the game, or whether it's in a comic that's coming up, or, you know, whatever. I wish there would be a moment where Grom expresses, not regret, because that's not the kind of character he is, but more of, like, a wishful thinking of, maybe... these people I've been waging war on could actually help us from stopping the Burning Legion coming. Because we see with this short story, it's not that he's just Grom, it's not that he's just against, you know, Warlock magic, because he is. It's that he's thinking long term. Remember, in the Hellscream short story, he saw a vision of the Orcs being corrupted by the Legion coming to basically controlling them, by the Legion sending them to Azeroth. He saw all of that. And now we have confirmation with this short story, whereas before it was just kind of implied. We have now direct confirmation. He was trying to prepare the Orcs to stop them. Like, he was trying to prepare the Orcs from not only not being corrupted, but to stand against the Legion. That's why he wants Margok's magic and the ability to make fel magic immune to his people. Once again, a sticking point of the short story is when Margok says, like, send your 10 best... Orcs, and I will teach them this. He's like, no, everybody. Anyone who possibly can. That's my deal. Like, he's very clearly trying to prepare the Orcs as a whole to stand against the Legion. So I wish there would be some kind of moment where he, like, quips out loud or something, where he says, like, man, I really wish... Maybe not I really wish, but man, it would be interesting if, or maybe in some way, the Horde and the Alliance would help us fight the Legion, and maybe I shouldn't have been trying to kill them when they could have been our allies, or something like that. Maybe that's what they're going to do with Grom, who gets captured, spoiler again, at the end of the 6.1 cinematic. Maybe that's an angle they're going to take. I really hope they address that at some point, because it's kind of like a huge disconnect. You know what I mean? Does that make sense to you guys, what I just explained? So, yeah, that's the short story. Once again, it's called Code of Rule. I would suggest reading it. I thought it was very well done. Most of the short stories are really, really good. I can't really put them in any order, but... this is up there, if not number one, very, very close. I thought it was fantastic. I liked it a lot more than I did. We got a really good look into like a minor villain, if that makes sense. He's a raid boss, of course, and he's the final boss of the first raid in the tier, but he is not super important, let's be honest. But we got a really interesting look into him, into how their magics work, and how ogre magic in general works. I didn't even touch upon how he talks about basically the ordering of Draenor. When I say the ordering, I specifically mean the event that happens on Azeroth. The ordering was when the Titans came and, you know, stopped the old gods and created their races, you know, like the Iron Vryk'rul, and like the Earthen, not the Iron Vryk'rul, but whatever they were called before that. Not the Vryk'rul that are flesh, but the other ones, whose names I'm forgetting right now, but them and the Earthen and, you know, everybody else. That was the ordering. And Margok, he doesn't call it that, but he basically says... Oh, I have the short story right here, but I don't think I can find it in time. He calls the creators, not the Shapers, what were they? The Forgers? I think is what he called them. Forgers? Yeah, the Forgers. He calls them the Forgers, which, now that we know that the Titans visited Draenor, are the Forgers the Titans? That's a whole thing that they kind of hinted at that we don't really know anything about. That was really cool. I mean, you guys, honestly, it was one of the best short stories I think they've ever done. So I highly recommend it, even if you haven't read it at some point at this point in the video. I've spoiled a lot of it for you, but still, go and read it. Honestly, it's fantastic. And let me know what you think about it. Let me know what your thoughts are on anything I've brought up here, something maybe that I didn't bring up that you thought was really nice, something you didn't like, because I brought up a point that I didn't like really either. Kind of. But thanks for watching, you guys. I just wanted to make another video to show you guys something cool that I thought that came out. So... I'll continue to do it. I'm considering coming back to record some in-game stuff. Like, for example, I'm getting really close to finishing the 6.1 Legendary quest on my Warlock. I have, it's like 600, I think it's like 605 elemental runes right now, so I still have a ways to go, but pretty soon I'm going to be doing that, so I'm probably going to record that and put that up here. I'm considering recording some gameplay with some other people that you haven't seen before, like my friend Rick. Maybe some gameplay of stuff like that on here. I'm still considering what I want to do. I'm probably still going to be avoiding like the big videos until I can make them a better or higher quality production value, but I'll be doing little tidbits here and there, like Did You Know is still going to be a thing. People seem to like that title. It was pretty much Did You Know, or it was And Now You Know, like I say at the end of the video. That was the two most liked titles, so I'll probably just keep Did You Know. So that's going to continue to be a thing. You're going to see some more in-game stuff once I get to it. And yeah, on other stuff like this, like short story announcements, stuff that I think are really cool. So thanks for watching, everyone. Leave all of your thoughts about anything in the comments below. And until then, I will see you, and keep trying to enjoy the lore, because even though me, personally, and you guys who have been watching me don't need me to repeat this, but even though I've had some issues with the Warlords of Draenor story, I still do really love the lore, as you can tell from this video. When actual good things come out, I'm still very excited for them. So, if you are having problems or issues with Warlords like me, keep the faith. At the very least, Warlords is probably close to being over. So, whatever. But keep with me with the lore, because it's always more fun when we discuss the lore together. Because, I don't know, I always say that at the end of these videos, and I had someone, ask me in a PM, or whatever they call them on YouTube, why do you always say that at the end? Because I really do mean it. That's the reason I did my initial lore show with Jan and somebody else, our podcast, and that's why I joined Buttwaither's Lore. That's why I stayed on Buttwaither's Lore for so long, despite all the problems that were developing at the end. I really, really do like discussing the lore with people, with my friends, with people who watch, with people who talk to me on Twitter, because I think the lore is interesting. I think it has ups and downs, obviously, but I do still really have fun discussing it. So, leave all of your thoughts in your brain in the comments below, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching, and farewell.